Hello, so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the impact of twisty bits on bendy bits. So what I mean by that is that when you've got a bit that just bends, say your knees, which are really just designed to go forwards and back, they are influenced by the twisty bits below them and above them, so feet and ankles, hips, pelvis, ribcage. And so what we're going to work out is how your bendy bits are affected by your twisty bits. So we're going to start off by testing your bendy bits. So the two main bendy bits that I'm thinking about today are your knees and your lower back, which are not really designed to twist, they are designed to bend. So let's have a look. Really easy ways to test that out. How does your squat feel? So if you come down into a squat position, does that feel easy? Does it feel comfortable? Is there anything that pinches or feels like it's sore, it's getting overstretched? Is there anything that feels like it's offline? Anything that doesn't feel quite right? Anything that makes it not feel easy? So we start with a squat, and then we're going to go for a toe touch. So, because this is going to test the bendy bits in your lower back. So just drop your chin forward, drop your shoulders, roll the way down, bringing your weight onto your heels as your fingertips swing above the floor, or hands flat on the floor if you're able to, and then come back up again. How did that feel? Did that again feel uncomfortable, tight? Where did you feel the tightness? And then what we're going to do is play around with some ideas for how we release that tightness and see what out of your twisty bits are going to be affecting your knees and your lower back. So that's the premise for today's video. The twisty bit we're going to look at now is the rib cage, which is designed with around about 70 degrees of rotation. So we're going to start with the sitting down with the feet flat and pelvis anchored so that we don't sort of go with. So keep your pelvis still, cross your hands on your shoulders, and then go around as far as you can. I want you to see, where does that elbow fall in line with your leg? And then the same thing the other way, where does that elbow fall in line with the leg? So we can see that while my rotation is terrible because I have no flexibility, it is at least reasonably symmetrical. And then we can work out how to get some more flexibility through the rib cage. So let's start looking at the flexibility side. First things first, I'm going to start a little bit of rib stretching. So I'm going to move back a bit so you can see more of me. And I'm going to hold onto my elbows above my head. I'm then going to try and stretch my right elbow into the air as high as I can. And I can feel that stretching down the outside there. So I'm pulling down with my left arm, pushing up with my right elbow, really stretching through the side of my ribs. And then I'm going to take 3 big breaths into my ribs. You may be able to see that on the out breath, I can get a little bit more stretch. Good. And then the other way. So I'm pushing up with the left elbow as hard as I can and pulling down with my right. So that's getting a nice stretch into the rib cage there. And the next stretch I'm going to do for the rib cage is going to be standing up, so I'm going to move the camera. So this rib cage stretch is going to have a little bit more rotation into it. So I'm going to reach up the wall with my left hand fairly high, not quite as high as I can go a little bit higher, but fairly high. But I'm going to have my body about a foot away from the wall. I'm then going to drop my body down, so I'm trying to drop my left hip into the ground, and that's stretching between my left hip and my left shoulder is going to stretch out my rib cage. But I'm then going to take my right hand and I'm going to feel down the left side of my rib cage. So I'm feeling down like this, and I'm going to feel for any individual ribs that feel tight or tender or feel like they're sticking out. And I'm then going to just try and push them, wiggle them backwards. So if I come into here, drop down to stretch out the ribs, and then I'm going to find, so I've got one here that, yeah, that's quite tight and tender. So I'm just going to sit here and just wiggle that rib. So I'm stretching and I'm wiggling, stretching and wiggling, just getting that particular rib just to open up and create a bit of extra space. And that's the one, and so that's now calming down and that doesn't hurt anymore, which is quite nice. So I'm going to have another hunt, see if I can find another one. Go up through here. No, nothing particularly sore through there today. Sometimes there is. So I've worked my way through the ribs on that side, then I'm going to do the same on this side. So coming up, leaning into the wall. With my left hand, I'm going to find a tight right rib. Yeah, that's horrible. And I'm just going to wiggle that backwards while I'm stretching up and stretching down. And so that's now no longer hurting, so I can come back. And that's how I would do that stretch and rotate stretch. I'm going to do another stretch now, but it's on hands and knees, so I'm going to change the camera angle. Okay, so the next ribcage stretches I'm going to do, you may well be quite familiar with these because these are fairly standard yoga stretches. And we're going to start with cat-cow and then we're going to go for threading the needle. So with cat-cow, I want you to really focus on spreading your fingers and pushing your fingertips into the ground, floor, whatever you're using. And then we're going to focus on getting some flexion extension through the ribcage. So just starting here, lifting the ribcage as high as you can, making yourself as high off the ground as you can get yourself, dropping your head down so that you're getting a full flexion and tucking your tailbone under. And then coming the other way, so dropping your body in between your shoulder blades. So really trying to get a glide from the shoulder blades there. Head up and tailbone up so that we're getting a real extension of the rib cage there. Then drop your head down, rib cage up, so you're really gliding it up between the shoulder blades. Tuck your tail under, and then the other way, tailbone, body glide down between your shoulder blades and head coming up. So that is cat-cow, and you can see how much flexion extension I can get of the rib cage there. We're then going to work on that rotation again because that's the biggie for the rib cage. So I'm going to do a threading the needle. So I'm going to reach under with my left hand as far as I can, trying to get my left shoulder onto the floor. And if I want to increase that, I can push down with my right hand on top of my left and basically pull my body away so that I'm getting a real stretch, a real rotation through my rib cage there. So I'm producing my own resistance basically. And then I'm going to put my right hand back down, push through the fingertips, and then look up at my left hand as I stretch through there. Let's try that the other way. So coming down onto my right shoulder as far as I can. I can't get all the way because I'm just not flexible enough. Left hand on top of right, really pulling. So you can see that I'm really pushing through my body, trying to almost pull my arm off and really get that rotation through the rib cage. Then coming back to centre, and then I'm going to look up to my hand as far as I can. So doing that a few more times and you will hopefully start to get a bit more thoracic rotation. So let's test that theory of having a bit more thoracic rotation. Again, pelvis locked in place, feet locked in place, cross your arms, and then you're going to go round as far as you can, and then round as far as you can, and see how far your elbow goes. I'm definitely going further over the knees, and that tells us that you've regained a bit of flexibility through the old rib cage. We've then got to wake the muscles up and regain the proprioception and wake everything up. So what I'm going to do for that is I am going to rotate my rib cage over my pelvis. So let's think about that. You need to bring the chest forwards. You need to bring the chest back. So let's start with chest forwards, chest back, chest forwards, chest back. And then we need to bring the chest over the right hip, chest over the left hip, rib cage right, rib cage left. Then we're going to work rib cage left and forward and right and back, left and forward and right and back. And excuse the squeaky stool. Then we go the other way, right and forward, left and back, right and forward. I'm going to break this stool at some point, left and back. So we've just woken up the muscles that control the rotation of the rib cage. And then we have to retest. We've just changed the twisty bit and the rib cage. So what effect has that had on your knees and on your lower back? Let's have a look. So again, checking in with that squat. Let's come back down. Does that feel any lighter, any more symmetrical, any easier than when you did it before you stretched out your rib cage? And then let's test the low back flexibility. So dropping the head
Dropping the shoulders, working your way down, coming into that toe touch position, and I'm definitely, I've got my fingertips on the ground there, so I've definitely gone a little bit further. So for me, I think that my rib cage has a part to play in me improving my low back flexibility. But what about you? Did that squat feel any easier? Did that toe touch feel any easier? If they did, then I think the chances are that there's a bit of rib cage stuff that needs to be investigated and played with and worked on to improve your knees or your low back.